Hey guys, Dan Greer, Eclipse DOT, coming at you today, talking just a little bit about how we got started and how this whole thing came into play. So I really want to just rewind back to several years ago, whenever I was just doing CDL training for a company. They just hired me. I'd recently became a CDL tester for the state, which is a whole nother story in itself. But when they hired me as a CDL tester, they wanted me to come on and build this CDL testing program, and so they uh they brought me on and I started to build the program. And then, about a year into it, the program was super successful. We'd 3x our instructors, we'd 2x the amount of trucks that we have, we doubled our trucks, we'd ran a ton of students through. We were just really successful. Companies in the area were calling us to see if we had any good drivers coming through the program that they could hire. I mean, it was just that great. You don't get that a lot of times out of a training facility, especially one that just starts up. And so we were really going great. And then all of a sudden our company gets audited by the federal government. Now keep in mind that our little section of this company, this is a great big company. Matter of fact, it's the largest non-union contractor in the United States right now. But our little section of the company was doing good. We were in compliance. We weren't causing any problems, but the rest of the company was having some issues apparently. And so DOT came in and they audited the company. And after they got done with the audit, they found a ton of violations. I mean, just tons. And so they were really low compliance. Pretty much they were 0% compliance when they got done with his audit. And so the owner of the company came to me and he said, Dan, you've done really good with this program. We really like what you're doing, but we need you to refocus your skills on something else. And we want you to take over this DOT program. And man, I was scared. I didn't know what to do. To be real honest, I sat there for a second. I went home and I prayed and I called a bunch of people to ask them, what they thought. And the best advice I got was from one of my old supervisors. And he said, Dan, it can't get any worse. If you take it right now, the program can't get any worse. So all you can do is go in and fail, and they're not out anything but paying you some time to get this done. And that really sank in with me, is that it couldn't get any worse. And so, I continued to pray on it. And I went in the next day and I told him, I said, yeah, I'll take the position. I'll do my best. And so at that point, they looked at me, the owner of the company and the VP as second in command. They looked at me and they go, all right, get it done. That was the advice they gave me. That was how they sent me on my way. They just said, get it done. It's yours. Take it. We don't know what to do. We don't have time to mess with it. This is your baby. You go ahead and take it and roll. And so, man, I didn't waste any time. I jumped right on it. I just started digging in. But, I had been a truck driver before that and a trainer. I'd never done anything with compliance before. I'd never sat down and really read real deep into the regulations. I didn't know what anything meant. So I was starting from ground zero. Knowledge was, I'd been in the industry for a while, but on the compliance side, on the back office side, I didn't know much about it. And then where they were at was literally ground zero. I mean, it was about a month after I took the position, the FMCSA sent us a letter that said, if you don't improve your DOT statistics, we're going to revoke your operating authority. And so you have to get your scores up. And man, you want to talk about pressure. Holy cow, there was pressure there. Pressure that was just, man, I carried with me everywhere. And again, I went to the owner of the company and I said, man, what do you want me to do? And he looks at me and he goes, it's your baby, man. Fix it. He didn't, no advice, no mentorship, no, hey, call this guy, no, spend this money. And then to top it off, all this happened right during the recession. So the company was retracting. They were trying to save money. And so I felt the pressure to really just do it as cheap and safe as possible. And so the first thing I did was I regrouped and I set some goals. I said, okay, Dan, this is what I want you to do. This is where I want you to be at. I didn't have anybody else setting goals for me. I didn't have anybody telling me where to go or what to do or how fast to get there. They just said they wanted it done. All we knew is that the auditor said within the next year, we'll be back to visit and audit again. And so I didn't know what to do. I didn't even know where to start. So I started setting goals. I said, all right, within 6 months, I want us to be at 50% compliance. Within a year and a half, I want us to be at 80% compliance, because I knew how far it was going to take. We were in 15 states. There were like 350 drivers when I took this over, and 1,100 employees. And out of those 1,100 employees, we didn't know how many were actually driving all the time because they were in 15 states, and we didn't have a good handle on what was going on. And the field didn't know what a commercial driver was or a DOT driver was. They were just throwing people in trucks. Just, hey, go get the job done. They had that mentality, get it done. They had that get it done mentality, which is not a bad thing. Don't get me wrong, right? But when it comes to compliance and federal regulations, that makes it really tough to have that mentality. So after I set those goals, I started pushing forward on it all. I started watching webinars. I started watching like tons of free webinars. Anything I could get my hands on for free, I was taking advantage of. I was reading. I was diving myself into this. I was putting 12, 13, 14 hours a day into this every day. I would literally get up first thing in the morning, dive into the material, go to work, dive into the material some more, do some more work, dive in while I'm working, multitasking, everything that's going on, getting it all ready, making a bigger plan as to how to make this happen. And then I just kept going. And then all of a sudden I started investing in some courses. I started taking my own money and investing in courses so I could learn more about it because the company was going through a hard time. And I invested in several of those for myself so that I could get better and that I could learn more about it. And then I kept going and I kept going. And about, I found that what I needed to do was I needed to start networking. I needed to start getting a relationship built with our HR department so that I could get access to the files. That way I could really get in there and get what I needed out of those files. So I started talking to him. I started going to have personal conversations with him every day, every other day, just short 5-minute conversations. Hey, how's it going? Hey, you got any kids? Tell me a little bit about yourself. I started really diving into who they were. Then I'd go back to my office. I'd take a couple notes in my notebook. That way I would remember it. And then, when I had a conversation with them tomorrow, all of a sudden they knew that I remembered them. And then within about 20 days of doing that, all of a sudden, I'm bringing them some coffee in the morning. Everything's going really good. They look at me and they go, what can we do to make your life easier? And I said, this would be really helpful. So I got them on my side. I started teaming up with them. Then all of a sudden, I started doing the same thing with the field and the operations guys. So I started going out to the drivers and I'd go see the guys who were local, every week. I'd go out maybe 1 or 2 times a week. I'd just show up at their office and say hi and see how it's going. And I'd go sit in on their management meetings just to listen to what problems they were encountering. And I started networking that way. So now all of a sudden my network goes from just me trying to fix this problem to the whole company trying to fix this problem. And all of a sudden we're on the same team. And now management and leadership within the different divisions, they understood why we were doing what we were doing because I was able to sit down and have good conversations with them. And I understood what struggles they were having. So I could tell them, hey, you know what? Today's not a good day to do this. Why don't we find a day that works best for you? So they thought I was on their side, and I was, because we're on the same team. Now then all of a sudden, all this is starting to come together. We're about 2.5 months into this. Okay. And then I start just piling stuff together. At the end of the 3-month mark, I went ahead and reevaluated all my goals. I looked at everything that I was at. I looked at what I said. I looked at where we were at in compliance. And we went from 0% compliance. I started out with 0 driver files, 0 vehicle maintenance files, 0 hours of service logs. I mean, 0, like nothing, zilch, blank slate, nothing. They said, write this program, do what you want to do with it. And it took me a ton of time. But after 3 months, okay, I went in and I reevaluated all my goals, and we were sitting at like 92% compliant. And I was like, man, I wanted to be there in a 1.5 years. This is awesome. How did we get here? Well, the way we got there was we networked. We made everything work and just started getting more people on the team working together for the same cause. And so as we continued to move forward through that, we started to change the culture of the drivers. All of a sudden, we went from punishing people for doing bad stuff to rewarding them for doing great stuff. And that took time. It took time to get leadership on our side. It took time to get the drivers to believe we were actually going to do it. I started calling law enforcement agencies from all over where we were working and just asking them questions, talking to them, networking with them the same way I networked with our HR department, the same way I networked with our drivers, the same way I networked with our leadership. I just started having those conversations with them. Then all of a sudden we're on a first name basis. I'm talking to this one officer out of Farmington, or out of New Mexico is where he was out of. He's a bigger region than that. But, I called him one day and he goes, hey, Dan, what's up? What kind of a relationship is that? That's awesome, And then same type of story, different location. I had a guy in Texas call me one day and he goes, Dan, one of your drivers came through here today and he didn't have the same attitude I've always seen. You might want to call him and make sure everything's going okay with him. Like, the officers who were writing these citations, who were writing these violations, who were helping us. Now they're on our team too. We're all working together. So we went from literally one man in leadership, the owner of the company, saying, "Get it done, dude. I don't care how you do it. Get it done. It's yours. It's your baby." I mean, that was the exact words. "This is your baby. I don't have time to mess with it. Go get it done." To having even law enforcement from around here who were writing us violations in the past, and they're still being honest. They're not doing anything wrong, but having them call us when a driver's having a bad day because they're worried about that driver. We grew that network that big and caused that company to be in at the end, we were at like 99% compliance within 6 months. I mean, I didn't plan on being there for almost 5 years when I wrote my goals out, and we made it in 6 months. And the only way we made it in 6 months was, number one, the good Lord was with us. That's all there is to it. We got to give credit where credit's due, and He's definitely the reason it happened, and I'm never going to deny that. The other reason is because He helped me network through all this stuff, and He helped us grow this network. So all of a sudden, everybody's on the same team instead of us fighting each other, and it works so much better. And so you guys, that's it. That's how we started. And then after that, we took the idea and we said, man, why just give this to one company? Why not share this knowledge? Why not share this with the rest of the world? Why not give it to somebody who has 2 drivers or 1 driver or 10 drivers or 20 drivers? You don't need to be able to employ a full-time guy, making a decent salary, to have this knowledge and this network and just the understanding of what's going on. And so that's why we created Eclipse DOT. That's why we're here. So many people out there go, man, you can get all this information for free on the internet. Yeah, you can. You can totally go Google it all. I know, because I started there. I created it all. I've got thousands and thousands of man hours into creating this program. I can't even tell you what I've got into it, because whenever I created it, I'd find something that worked better. And you know what? I'd adapt that into my program. And then I'd find something else that worked better, and I'd adapt that into the program. And then I'd adapt. I'm still adapting as we find stuff that works better as we go help businesses out. Let's say we go help a business that's got 2 customers or 2 drivers in it, and they've got an awesome, phenomenal way that they do something. Guess what we do? We ask them if we can adopt that and share it, and they're excited. And we give them credit for what they're doing. We're like, yeah, hey, we just adopted this new program into what we've got going on, and the credit goes to these guys. And so now then our entire network knows where it came from. We don't take credit for it. We don't say, hey, this is mine. We don't say, hey, this is something I came up with. We say, man, no, these guys over here created this. And then it's a network. It's not about grabbing credit and taking it. It's about giving it where it's due. And that's the biggest thing, is when you share this, when you get out there and you start sharing everything, you become Glassdoor, you become transparent. You let people know what's going on. You don't be afraid to hide anything as you move forward. And that's who we are. You're going to know what's going on with us. You're going to know what's going on all around us, because that's exactly what we want. And that's what we want from everybody we work with. Because if you're hiding something, you're not going to gain anything. All right, guys. That's it. I know that it's short, but I just want you guys to know that you can do it. You can do anything. Because if I can start from zero and within 6 months be at 99% compliance, you guys can do anything. And that was with a pretty good sized company, right? All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day.